Welcome back, everyone. We are live with another episode of Growing with My Fellow Growers. This is Jack Greenstock. I'm going to be passing the hosting duties over to Matthew Gates and the rest of the panel today. So I just want to say cheers, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. And I'll catch you all next week. Have a great week. And thank you, Matthew. I'm going to pass the host on over to you now. And have a great show, everyone.
Wait, Jack, can you type in the chat just to get it going? Never mind, it started. You're good.
Well, cool. Well, excellent. Well, welcome to episode 111. This is Cheap Home Grow. This is Matthew Gates, Integrated Pest Management Specialist. I will be hosting, which doesn't mean too much here. Not to minimize Jack's great contributions here, but we all have a great time speaking on the panel no matter what. So I'd like to talk here first with Spartan Grown. How are you doing?
I am doing good today. I hope everybody else is doing well. I'm Spartan Grown. I'm a organic home cultivator, and then at work we do synthetic. So I've got my foot in kind of both, I guess, genres of growing. But you can find me on Instagram, Spartan Grown, all one word, or also you can just shoot me an email, spartangrown@gmail.com, if you have any questions.
I've started describing you that way as well, among other things like Gandalf the Green and that sort of a thing. Because it is true, you do have that dual experience, and I think that's been very helpful and insightful. Next, we have Aaron the Grower, who hasn't been on in a couple of sessions. How are you doing?
What's up, guys? Yes, regretfully, life has picked up, and I can't help but keep my feet on the ground. So yeah, I'm Aaron the Grower, ATG Acres on Instagram and YouTube and atgacres.com. I'm really happy to be back. Always miss you guys.
I feel the same way, but I do understand that you are quite busy lately, but for good reasons. When people ask me what I'm doing, I always say productively busy, because it's true, and that's where you want to be.
Yes, sir.
And finally, wow, very small panel this week, but that's okay. Noah the Grower, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Still kind of recovering from this car wreck, but yeah, I'm here. I'm Noah the Grower on Instagram. If you got any questions, you can come over and check out my stuff. I've been a medical grower for about 10, 11 years now, and always have a great time with everybody, and I'm ready to get into it.
It's excellent to hear. So, did anyone have a pressing topic that they wanted to talk about? I know that Dr. MJ Coco just got his Instagram unlocked, although now that I've said that, I probably jinxed it. So hopefully it'll be here next week. But I just want to bring that up for the chat. Oh, speaking of which, we should remind everyone to be in live chat, not top chat, if you want to get all of the comments. Or maybe you want to use the filter. I don't know. Make your own decision.
If anybody has questions in chat, go ahead and tag, since Jack's not going to be in chat, you can go ahead and tag me, Spartan Grown. Just do @ then Spartan Grown, and I should hopefully see it, and we'll try to get the question out and give you the best answer we can come up with.
Spartan's really good about that kind of thing, honestly.
I try, man. A lot of times you guys are talking way above, like I don't have anything to add, so I try to make myself useful by reading chat and pulling out questions.
I know the feeling. So, yeah, like, and I think that's why we have such good chemistry, honestly. Maybe this episode, because it's a bit of a different flavor and composition, maybe it's going to be a bit of a meta episode. But I do have to say that I think we do, that's what a good team does, I think. It's like as there might be a forefront and a back front or background, perhaps. And,
I love it, dude. That's a great topic in itself. Just like when you build a team at anything, but we'll just say on a grow, like you have a big grow and you have more than one person working there, you don't have to have somebody to be exactly like you just play towards everybody's strengths. And so like my strategy is I like to cross train people, but I watch how they do things, and if I see that they do stuff really well, then those are the people that are going to do those
yeah, that makes
generally
sense.
the test that they do well is the task that they enjoy to do, and the task that they don't enjoy doing, they don't do well. So if I can, like, if it's my job to assign people tasks, I try to assign people the tasks of things that they like to do, and that way that job's done to the best You know what I mean? That's kind of a cool strategy that a lot of people might not think about. They just think this has got to be done. You do it, you do it, you do it. But like, perfect example at work, the spraying, you know, no matter what it is we're spraying, even if it's just water, I'm not a fan of spraying because even if it's just water, we still have to follow all the protocols, like all the PPE, all the, like, there's a whole list of things we have to do. We have to log things in, everything that we do. We have not stickers, but magnetic warnings that we put on the doors when people are in there spraying. It's a huge process. For me, one of my least favorite things to do. And it's very common that most of the people don't like doing it, but we do have somebody on the team that absolutely loves doing that. So in a common situation, what would happen is everybody would take a turn at it. But in our situation, we just talked amongst ourselves and we're like, oh, you like to do it? Then go ahead and do that. And we'll do what you don't like to do. You know what I mean? And it works out great that way.
It is nice when those sorts of, I guess, strengths as well as like motivations kind of work harmoniously like that. I definitely agree. I think it also sort of circles back to some of the things we've talked about many a time, which is that like in the case of like Russ Brandon, for example, you know, having a small team that's tight knit, and like you say, I'm a huge advocate of cross training, especially in IPM. In my experience in general agriculture, I find that usually when people realize that they need like a crop scouting facet of their pest control, that's not just like somebody coming up and being like, I've never seen this before. You want to take a look at it? Which is fine. And I love to facilitate people who have that natural inclination. But what I find is that people who are just like, I guess you could just call like general labor or something like this, as dehumanizing as that is as a title or a description, they just be like, oh, well, let's teach these people a little bit more, and then we'll graduate them to be the crop scouts that do it as a dedicated position. But then they forget training all the other people who sometimes even have more hands-on contact with the plant, like hour to hour, I suppose you could say. And you know, just bringing everyone onto an even minimal level of training is super useful. And if you have a smaller group of people, even more so. Is that easier?
Yeah, I find that to be super true. Like, because we're a smaller group, like 5 people for the whole giant operation. Well, it's not even giant, but the whole operation is 5 people. And when you're that small, you have to communicate. You have to, and that's what I love, because that was my biggest bitch about working in big companies, was the lack of communication, or how terrible the communication was. I think communication is in key, especially in a situation where there's only 5 of you and there's a lot of work to get done. You got to be on point with communicating with each other.
I agree.
Yeah.
Better to over communicate than.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you sometimes I tell my guys the same thing 3 times, the same, like in one day. And then I'm like, oh, I said that earlier. But you know, it's just important to make sure you say it.
Yeah, I'll admit that like I'm not perfect, and then sometimes for myself, I do agree with you. That's one thing that in my life experience, redundancy is a really important thing to have in an organization, no matter what size it is. But even for myself, sometimes when people remind me things that like in my mind, I'm like, I already know that. Who do you think I am? You know who I am. Like that feeling, that ego can be a little bit inflated sometimes, even for like small things. So it can be helpful to like know other people's reactions. I have a particular friend whose disposition is, I'm going to say, fiery. He can be a little bit fiery sometimes. He's got a fire under him, which allows him to be, you know, explosive in other ways that are really beneficial. But sometimes I have been known to annoy him by being redundant about operations and things like this. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to just work towards a common objective, you know. And as long as you're respectful and you consider the specifics of different people, you know, usually that's fine for chemistry's sake. And then sometimes it takes time for that sort of to congeal and coalesce well, at least in my experience. It won't happen day one, always.
I'm sitting here talking muted. Sorry, my bad. We have some questions coming in from chat. First one is from Chad Westport chat, and want to know, are termites, this is a good one for you, Matthew, are termites common to cannabis? I don't think I've seen them a lot, but, or at least in the wood mulch used as a cover, do they hang around or do they just move on?
It is termite season in the northern hemisphere, or at least in North America anyways. And I would say that a lot of people I know are seeing swarming termites, subterranean termites, drywood termites. There's actually a new species of termite in California currently as an invasive. But as far as cannabis is concerned, I'm seeing it a little bit more and more, but I wouldn't quite call them common. Of course, the data is kind of out there, so I'm not really basing that on anything except for my own experience and what I've seen from other people online. But I am getting asked about termites more and more. In fact, I was just asked about termites like yesterday or today, and then a few days before that. And I have seen them attack cannabis, like the cambium, like that bark layer. I've seen them girdle it. I've also seen carpenter ants and fire ants and other kinds of ants that I wasn't able to identify, like through video, attack cannabis plants as well. So it's definitely a thing that can happen.
So as a food source, they're eating the outside coating of the branch, or what?
I'm not always sure. Well, for termites, yes. For termites, they eat the wood, and then the microbes in their body break down the lignin, and so termites are basically, all termites descend from a lineage of cockroaches. So they're just social wood cockroaches, of which there are many wood cockroaches out there, and so I assume that must be what they're feeding on in those cases. For the ants, though, I'm not always sure, and I've tried to talk with my buddy. Like, I have a friend he's a myrmecologist. He's an ant entomologist in Russia, named Dr. Anton Zukov. And when I've asked him about this, it's sort of unclear to him as well. Sometimes carpenter ants use things for like nesting materials, or they do, in fact, they're like trying to get hydration out of the water. Hydration out of the water, hydration out of the tissue. And when it's really hot, that can be a possibility as well. Also, if you're irrigating your plants, they can take that free moisture as well, but by just like squeezing the dirt or the tissue and extracting out the liquid. So I think there's some of that going on too, potentially. But again, I wouldn't really call it like it's not like a normal food source like it would be for like aphids or something like that.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like, it's not often that plants, except for maybe outdoor plants, get big enough to really build a lot of that woody material indoor.
That's true.
I don't think
this
is going to be a big issue unless you're outdoor, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been what I've seen. It's usually like an outdoor, like a sort of like kind of like greenhouse sort of situation, typically not like an indoor one, certainly. And also the kinds of termites I was talking about earlier, like the drywood and the subterranean termites that people get as like house pests. I don't think those are typically the ones people are interacting with as cannabis pests too. So it's a different situation there. But termites are definitely not my greatest forte.
Well, this next question, I think probably Aaron's going to be able to answer this the best, and that's and anybody can jump in if you have the answer. I don't have an answer for this, but this was a question from Vero HTX from chat, and they said, what would be the last week in flower? What would the last week in flower do to a saturated paste test from Logan Labs? I had to kind of filter that out to make it make sense.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't know that.
Wait, I'm not sure I understand. What would the last week of your soil look like in a saturated basis?
I think what they're asking is what are you looking for? If you're looking at a saturated paste test, what should you be looking for at that point in time? Or is that's kind of I don't know. I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to pull meaning out of it, but
that makes sense.
If you could restructure your question, that might help us out, chat. Who was this?
It was Vero _HTX from chat and YouTube.
Yeah. All right, let it give us another question another way to put it, possibly. Like, I also wasn't sure I quite understood it either.
I mean, probably a lot of how I would respond to that question as we've interpreted it is, low nitrogen, but like exact numbers and stuff, that's going to depend on your strain and,
are you
as a
looking,
cultivators.
Are you looking to have your substrate pretty much emptied out at that point, or are you not so much concerned with a lot of nutrition, or I don't know how to I don't really know how to phrase it.
I don't think that you need to worry about emptying it like the traditional like flush, like it's not like we need to push everything out of there. And especially because I reuse my soil every cycle. But that said, optimum conditions, you'd probably want to see your nitrogen go really low. But other than that, I couldn't see other compounds being, or other, atoms being a problem, other elements. But, when I spoke to like Sustainable Plant Solutions and Soil Doctor, everybody has a different opinion on where your levels should be in the saturated paste test. And it has a lot to do with the soil mediums they've worked with themselves, like traditional soil or soilless media. There's, cation exchange capacity between those two mean completely different things. So different ag experts have interpreted saturated paste tests differently.
I also feel like it's one of those things where it's more important to have, and this is kind of why I wasn't sure how to answer the question, is that like, I feel that it is case by case, kind of like we've already said. It's one of those things where the data, like over a period of time, is valuable for the contextual information you can marry that to. And in a vacuum, it doesn't really tell you anything
Exactly.
as significantly as it could, wouldn't you say?
Agreed.
Maybe I'm wrong here, but the strategy, well, I'm also in pots, so it's different than in the soil, but my strategy or my thought process on this is I'm treating, we've heard this before. I'm almost looking at the soil like a battery, and as it's getting depleted, I'm looking for deficiency signs in my plant. I'm looking at my plant for signs of deficiency to tell me that I've depleted a nutrient. And at that point, it's my job to replace that nutrient. So I'm looking more at, I'm just trying to keep that at minimal levels. I'm not trying to like put a mass amount on there. I just want to have enough in there so the plant's happy. And then if the plant becomes not happy, then I know I can address it with a top dress. That's kind of my loose strategy.
Like a minimum threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that perspective personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, and I was just having a conversation with a client actually, about the use of like microbes, and this could be a question too. Although I did see a really cool question from Katie in the chat. But I do feel like when it comes, and I actually quoted you, Spartan, believe it or not, here. I was telling them that like when it comes to adding inputs, I agree with Spartan on this. That like you really got to show what you're getting out of it. I really want to see a pretty stark, demonstrable effect. And if it's not something that not necessarily like, I mean, quantification is important, but even before that, it's like, does the cost benefit analysis make sense? And I think for a lot of inputs, that's not always the case. And so like having that minimum threshold perspective is kind of like, great. If you're able to make fire dank, and it's like, whatever metric you're using, whatever that threshold is, anything above that's got to be worth it, right?
Yeah, that's me being the cheap home grower that I am. That's what I would say. If you're having some type of a problem, like that the plant's not, your weed's not tasting good, you're not getting trichome production, you're not getting as much weight as you should, then maybe you would want to dig a little deeper. But I think if you're at a spot where the weed is good, I wouldn't dig too deep into that myself.
I'm getting a request for Brady Bunch view in the chat, so I'm going to try to do. Oh, 2 people enter the waiting room. I am not a good host.
That's what I was just going to say. The American one and Predicated Breeding are both there, yeah.
I think it has to do with YouTube will not display the monitors that don't have a video feed. So people that have an active background that are showing their icons will show up, but people that don't, and it's just their names, they probably are not showing up on YouTube.
I'm going to gallery view, which I believe is that Brady Bunch view. And I've just brought in Kyle Breeder and the American one. Kyle, tell us about yourself.
Kyle is not there yet.
It seems that way.
Same thing with American one. Looks like he's still connecting his audio. He's not even all the way in yet. There goes. Tom might be here shortly.
Yes, hello.
What's up, Tal? Why don't you tell everybody about yourself? Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm the American one on YouTube and the American one _with_18s on the IG. And yeah, I'm just pretty much a low profile cannabis cultivator. And yeah, I love hanging out and chatting with these guys about everything that's going on. So I'm glad to be here. Hello to chat.
People are definitely enjoying. CDEV from NorCal is Tao. Chad is also singing your praises, so definitely people miss you. And Kyle, are you there? No? Are you muted? No? Well, anyways, I think we have another question, potentially.
Yeah, we got a couple here. Let's see. The next one down was this is from Kate Armstrong. Do you think a couple oscillating fans are good to use in a tent, or a couple stationary fans pointed in opposite directions? Now, my problem with this question is tent doesn't describe anything for me because they can be multiple sizes, right? So really the space, tent doesn't matter to me. The space that you're covering matters to me. And I mean, to generally answer the question just myself is like, if you can get more fans in there, put more fans in there. And I don't like direct airflow on my plants, but above, below, around, big fan of that.
That's what I would say too. I think that if you're growing in a tent, I don't have a lot of experience growing with tents, but I did grow in a 4x8 room and a closet when I was first coming up. But you're going to want to move that air somehow. And if you have them blowing on the plants directly, it doesn't really matter how, you're going to get wind burns. So you want to do just like Spartan said, above the canopy or, below it, down by the pots and stuff. You definitely want to be moving that air though.
I have been playing with like a new strategy or newer strategy of, instead of oscillating fans, is just creating a circle of air and stirring the air like you would stir your water. And I really like those results.
I've done that before too.
Is Kyle there still? No?
That's weird. We'll have to keep calling Kyle here and there and see if he'll pop in. Maybe his mic's not working. He's been talking this whole time, maybe.
It's possible. All right. Next question. Oh yeah, that was Katie's. Can gypsum be used? This was UK SIF 420. Can gypsum be used when using synthetic nutrients in cocoa?
I would say it's possible to use it, but it's not a great idea to use it. And my reasoning for that is if you're feeding synthetically, I'm going to use analogies here because I don't have the scientific words for it. So when you feed synthetically, the plant doesn't have to shoot out its exudates to attract the microbes because it's getting the plant available nutrition already. So it doesn't do that. It saves its sugars that it's making. maybe it still sends out some, I'm sure. But when you switch that up, the type of nutrition up in the middle of a cycle, it's going to take a time period for that plant to adjust to be able to access that nutrition. Like, for example, my best example here, when I take a clone from my home garden, which was organically grown, and transplant it and start feeding it synthetically, it'll take right off, no problem. If I were to take a clone from a synthetic garden and put it in organic medium and just give it water to have it start feeding organically, it's going to take some time for that plant. In fact, it's taken 2-3 weeks sometimes for these plants to, what I call, figure out how to eat again, and to start transferring over to eating in a different way. And that's kind of my reservations towards when people say that there's synganic growers where they mix the two. It's like, if you're mostly organic and you're throwing some synthetics in there just to address deficiencies and stuff, I mean, yeah, you're getting plant available nutrition to the plant quick for sure, but you're also at the same time affecting how the plant is feeding on everything else by affecting the microbiome with that high salt environment as it goes through the soil column. So that's my really long answer. Like, it's possible, but I wouldn't.
I agree with that, actually. I was just reading a paper that came out recently about mycorrhizae and how I don't know if I talked about this. I talked about this in a few platforms, so tell me if I've done that already here. But the paper was about re-examining our perspective about mycorrhizae, and essentially the idea is that, like, kind of we've been overhyping perhaps the utility of mycorrhizae, or at the very least the utility in a commercial sense versus like in a natural sense, and sort of the differences between, well, first of all, as we've gotten more and more data and as we've had more and more nuanced interactions between various endophytes and ectophytes of plants, be they bacterial, fungal, or some other organism, and how, like, maybe not always is the case are these relationships even totally mutualistic. I think that, and so in these cases, one of the big ones is that a lot of times these relationships are context dependent, and I've talked about this a lot, I know, but like if you have a higher nutrient content, like nitrogen, or rather phosphorus is the one I was thinking of, a lot of mycorrhizae for certain plants, especially conifers, mine phosphorus and exchange it for sugars, hexose, in a lot of cases. And when the phosphorus is abundant, it doesn't really facilitate that relationship from initiating at the very least. So I guess I just feel like that's kind of that's sort of like a natural example where, like, in a commercial setting, if you do up the nutrient level, you might destabilize the very delicate mycorrhizal or various other soil microbiome interactions.
Looks like Kyle's back. You want to introduce yourself, Kyle, so everybody knows who you are?
Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't know I got let in, so I was in the middle of doing something. But yeah, my name is Kyle Breeder. I specialize in feminized breeding. If anybody's looking for feminized seeds, I do have a website. It's the letter P followed by breeding.com. And yeah, I have a lot of cool projects in the works coming up. I'm currently have a bunch of cool crosses coming in, so that's pretty excited about that. And yeah, thanks for letting me in, you guys. I'm glad we're all here still. And what are you guys chatting about? What did I miss?
We're just fielding questions today from the chat mostly. And one of the questions that I could have swore I copied and pasted in there, but I don't see it in there. And it was from Cade Armstrong, but it was a cool question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. And it was he wants to know everybody on the panel, walk through everybody on the panel, and tell her what you're growing, what you got growing. So we start with Matthew, I guess. Well, Matthew probably doesn't have anything going at this moment. Maybe
not at the moment, honestly. And in some ways, I feel like it's a bit of a professional courtesy too, because, like, I don't want to be a pest vector. You know what I'm saying? It's a question I go back and forth on quite a bit.
Oh, but at the same time, and at the flip side of that coin, if you had pest right in your backyard, we'll say, for you
You
to
can test
go
on.
and
You can
study and
test
test
on.
on. Yeah, there
That's
you
true.
go.
That's true.
Your subjects right there.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why the Saigo International. I will say this: the Saigo International people I'm working with in Agwanga are putting out some sentinel plants, and so we're gonna see all the different things that can infest those plants in that particular biome. So you can check them out.
I would
and
use
we can
hemp for that. That's got to
Oh
be
yeah,
fairly cheap. I mean, it's
yeah.
gotta be the
Oh, I
right kind
agree.
of pest.
I completely agree.
All right, what about you, Noah? What you got going?
Well, I'm growing some Gorilla Glue for this platinum OG that I've had for 5 years that I love to death. Actually, I'm just kind of burping that right now. I trimmed it up last week, but it's sitting in the rack for 6 days, and I'm just kind of got it in these big Tupperware totes, and I take the lid off for like 20 minutes a day, and then when it gets done with that, I'll jar it and kind of repeat for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I got that. I got some gelato. I got some Sunset Sherbet. Man, I'm just trying to think here. I got some Purple Punch.
You got a great push notification ringtone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Mario Brothers. I grew up with that. Yeah. And then I'm getting ready to get a couple more. I have a tent that I've been meaning to set up forever, and I have a bunch of seeds I'm going to Pheno hunt through. I just kind of want to keep it separate from all my other gear, but yeah, that's pretty much what I'm rolling with right now.
Awesome, Tal. What you got going on, man? I know you got lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff happening over here. So I took down the last Velvet Punch that was in that grouping of there was 3 of them. I still have one that I put into flower late, and it's just starting in another area. And I took down a Bruce Banner and a Time Wreck recently. But going forward, I have a whole bunch of AK Bean Brains blueberry crosses coming out that I crossed with the Cheesequake that I took cuts of. Now I'm reflowering them out and picking through like 6 of them to see which one I'm gonna actually keep around forever. Perhaps I'll keep around 2, but probably not. I'll probably end up, whatever. But yeah, I'm going through those, and then I recently got some Chocolope and some OG Chocolate Tie. The OG Chocolate Tie was from AK Bean Brains as well, so I'm really excited to pop those. Those haven't been started yet. What else do I got? Oh, the silent one on YouTube and IG. I think he goes by the silent one anyway, everywhere. Gave me GG4 and San Fernando Valley Kush cuts crossed by the Alien Rift. And I harvested one of those. And I got,
good, dude.
Yeah, that is some good stuff. I didn't smoke it yet, but it looks incredible and it smells good. But I got like 4 more of those. And it's a big, long story, but I have those in veg. I need to take cuts off of those if I'm going to ever flower them out because they got a little beat up. And I got an Agent. I just pushed in an Agent Orange clone that I had. I know it's a female. What else is in there? My proprietary the one I call proprietary is a bag seed that I kept a clone of forever. So I really don't know exactly what it is, the actual strain. That one's almost done too. I'm gonna you know what? I've been lame on the IG. I haven't been posting everything that I usually do. But so I've been waiting till they're done, and everybody loves those anyway when they're all done. And good looking. I had ones that weren't that good looking, so I just didn't share them with the world because them ladies don't like to be photographed when they're not looking their best.
Oh, dude, that's right up among all species, man.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, I'm excited. I got some Canada Queen genetics. I got Queen White Haze that I have 2 female cuts of that I need to flower out that were interesting. But yeah, they weren't up to snuff for either. But yeah, all of that. But I'm really, and I started, I hit some plants with the AK Bean Brains blueberry male plant. The other one I had was, I hit the female with the Cheesequake male that I had, but I hit a whole bunch of females with the blueberry male, and I already popped out some of those that I'm excited to try. And after seeing this last Bruce banner that I pulled out and some other pictures from other people who grew without the cross that I made with the cheesequake, I'm going to start some of those after all that too. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
How's the stem rub on the male, that blueberry male? You're getting like pretty decent, actually. You're getting like actual blueberry terps off that, or like undertones of it, or? There's
a little bit. I didn't have that male very long. I'm gonna have to. I'll check into that. But the female, all the females have a blueberry flavor to them. Every single cross that I made with the cheesequake male into the female that I had, and the female is blueberry through and through. Now I have another blueberry from Riot Seeds, and that's an old school blueberry. That blueberry really never tasted blueberry to me. The old school blueberry, like the AK Bean Brains has a fruity blueberry flavor, like it's unmistakable blueberry. And the old school blueberry is like the one I remember, DJ Short, that I grew outside. That I grew like fucking a whole bunch outside one year. And that was my favorite through the whole winter and stuff. That was my go-to, man. I like that. So, but yeah, the male, they all smell. It definitely smelled in veg at one point, because that's why I have it too. But I still don't know if it's a keeper or not, because I didn't grow any of its offspring out until I got them going now. I'm about to upplant 3 girls and go through more and see if I can find more girls.
What about you, Kyle? I know you got a bunch of shit too, but let's hear about it, man.
Yeah, well, one thing I do want to say, so I think I have offered recently, this is all just recent, you guys, but Spartan, and I think I've shipped Noah some, but if Matt, Aaron, or Tao, and Brandon ain't here, and I'm trying to think who else is on the panel right now, but I can't think, but so I have a bunch of stuff that I'd like you guys to, if you guys have some room in your grow room, if you guys want to grow some stuff out that I think you'd really like. So if you have, after this show is over, just send me a DM and I'll ship you some seeds for free. It'd be cool just for you guys to kind of grow my stuff as well, if you're up for it. But yeah, in regards to what I have, so I have some skunk growing that I believe to be pretty legit. It's still too early to kind of tell anything, but there was an interview on Bud Guys, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about Blue Skies Vienna and some of the stuff that he has, and it's like it's like pre-80s, whatever, pre-80s, pre-90s, but it's all the people that grew it from around, a bunch of guys in Cali and Colorado and all these different growers that have zero affiliation with this guy as a friend, all had extremely good things to say about the terpene developments itself. And they were like extremely original to anything that they've been growing, and like the medicinal benefits it had. Because I mean, I haven't done too much research into it, but I'm pretty sure if you took weed from like the 70s or let's say you took 100 plants from the 80s, 90s, and then 100 plants or different cultivars from here, and then did lab results, I'm pretty sure there's a slightly radical difference in regards to cannabinoid profiles inside of those flowers. Anyway, to get to the specific questions, so I have some of those skunk. I have some. I still have the Pheno of the Limarilla from Brendan that I actually have flowering out now. I'm going to hit I have 2 huge New England rock candy mothers that are straight up ball sacked out that I've been spraying for a while, and they're all getting ready to throw fem pollen. But I plan on putting some fem pollen on her. I got a mat cut, the breeder's cut from a close friend of mine in a local grow store that I go to, and so I plan on putting some powder, some pollen onto her, which should be interesting. I know she doesn't take well, but hopefully I can get a couple viable seeds. I have Princess Elsa, and I don't know how long you guys remember or how long we've been doing this, but I have a cut called Princess Elsa that's Cookies and Cream by Tangy, and it's just like this extreme purple iced out cut. It's crazy. It's definitely on my my website. There's a video. That's her. If you guys ever get a chance to look at that. So, but that rock candy's gonna hit her. I have my Afghan cherries and breeder's cherry cake, which is basically an Afghani dominant cherry terpene plant. And then I had a wedding cake cut that I selected. It's not a breeder's cut by any means, or the breeder's cut of wedding cake. But so I crossed those 2, and that's turned out to be beautiful, extremely, extremely beautiful stature, all wicked symmetrical, all great, like just really, really vigorous and hybrid. And the terpene is just radiating off of her. So that's out of all the new crosses I have coming, I think she's going to be an all-star. She has a wicked good trichome development. It's only like week 3.
I just want to jump in 1 second real quick. They're asking in chat who's speaking. That's Kyle Breeder, predicated breeding on, well, you can say that. I don't need to say it all. You got them all. You have your own webpage too, isn't it? pbreeding.com?
Yeah. So I got a website. It's predicated breeding or pbreeding.com. They both lead to the one website. I did that in case people only knew my name or if they knew who I was. Either they both lead to the same website that I have. I only do feminized seeds. I do have some Durban poison, which are regs, but that's the only regs I have on website. So if anybody wants to get seeds, they're basically all fem. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I haven't been posting much on
my address, by the way. While you were talking, I was like, shit, we had that conversation. I don't think I ever sent you the address. So I sent that to your DM. So you got that now.
All right. Yeah. I haven't been posting much on Instagram because I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned. I've gotten way over 300 followers in like the last couple of weeks, and I've been stuck at 10.4. So I figured the last time this happened, I just didn't post for like a month, and they all kind of came rushing back in. So I don't know what's going on with that shit. So I'm just kind of like taking a small break. So if anybody's wondering why I haven't posted shit, it's just because I'm trying to let Instagram chill out on me.
Better be careful. Disney's going to be litigious with that naming scheme.
Well, yeah. The last name is EL. Instead of ELSA, it's ELZA.
Very clever. I'm sure that.
But yeah, originally, that was a problem. I remember because someone's like, "Oh, you're gonna get an trademark infringement," and I was like, "Oh, that is true," because I don't want to end up like GG4 did. But I don't want to take too much more of the mic. But yeah, I got a bunch of cool stuff coming. Some of the crosses, and you know what's cool? I've been thinking about today is like, I don't just like grab a pack from this guy and a pack from this guy, do a cross, and because I selected a keep from each and then threw it out there. Like all this stuff that I've been working with is like shit that I had when I first met you guys. Like, I'm introducing Mac now, and like, I have Brandon's Limarilla, but like all this stuff is all material that I had when I first started doing all those stress testing projects, which is how I got my breeding plants. And I just feel like it's just really rewarding in myself knowing that I've just been like trying to create and bring forth the market things that are literally things that I've been seeing and selecting since since I really kind of started this adventure. But yeah, so I have some cool stuff coming out for you guys. Just stay tuned. We'll see what happens.
Aaron, what you got going on, man? We got to hear it. It's all out. Is it all outdoor too, or do you guys some indoor stuff going too?
I'm working on getting some indoor stuff going in Oklahoma. Most of my genetic stock is in Oklahoma. So I have like 45 strains in Oklahoma. But here in California, I just popped some beans. I popped some LA Confidential, some Stinking Bishop, some Baja Blast, which is a Citrus Farmer #2 X lime cream slush. So that's from what's this guy's name?
So Citrus Farmer times a lime. Nice. That sounds awesome.
Citrus Farmer 2 apparently.
Yeah. So I think this guy works, or these people work on another breeders, like off of another breeders. Basically, they call them
the F2 them. It sounds like that's cool though. Then I've heard really good things about that Citrus Farmer strain. Really, really good.
I'm excited, man. So this one's called Baja Blast. It's by Canna Creature. Let's see, what else am I running? What's that one that I did? Cushage. Yeah, I think that covers it. Yeah, that does cover it. I'm excited about all this old stuff like LA Con. That's something that I like haven't smoked in a decade. Stinking Bishop is like, that's not even a name that I've heard in, it wasn't a popular strain 10 years ago, but just to have it now is something cool. And I only got one of them to pop. They were all preemie looking seeds, 10 years old, and 1 out of 10. So we'll see how it goes.
I don't actually know, and I always ask Jack about this. I haven't heard these names either. Do you want to describe them for me? Specifically the Citrus Farmer, and also feel free to do so too, Spartan, and the Stinking Bishop I'm curious about. Oh, and the Baja Blast, really all three.
Well, I unfortunately, this is the first time I've run these genetics, so I am not familiar with them, but like Spartan, I've heard really good things about the citrus farmer, but what have you heard, Spartan? I bet you know more.
So I heard a whole podcast from the breeder who the original breeder of citrus farmer, and I can't even think of who that is off the top of my head right now. And I just can't remember anything in the description other than obviously the citrusy was more on the orange side, but I just remembered it was one of those strains that I fucking put back in the back of my memory banks, because from the description that I heard from the breeder, it was one that I was like, okay, if I see that sometime, I might pick that up, because I'm really not in the practice of picking up strains. I haven't bought seeds in over 2 years now, but I've got lots of seeds. And so when I hear strains all the time, obviously, just like you guys, but I'm not like Jack. They don't stick in my head. So the only ones that really stick are the ones that I'm interested in growing, and that I've heard good things from multiple people. It can't be one person. It can't be, I have to hear it come up again and again and again. The citrus farmer is one of those ones that it's a true, from my recollection, and I could be completely wrong, but it was like one of those true oranges, I think is what, because I don't like orange. Most of the orange weed I hate, because it's what I call is astringent weed. And
dude, it's like pine salt.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm the same way, man. I'm actually trimming on orange creamsicle as we speak, and I fucking hate it. I feel guilty because it's great weed, but it's like I can't stand this orange. So I've been looking for something orangey, but I'll tell you what, if I find a keeper that's got a good orange nose on it, I could theoretically, hypothetically, send one your way.
Sweet. That would be dope. I the other one that I actually have seeds of that I might get to it soon is Orangegasm from Irie Genetics. It's supposed to be another one of those ones where the orange isn't that I don't know, caustic. Every time I smoke orange,
abrasive.
Yeah. It's like it's not pleasurable.
I don't know.
I want a smooth smoke. I want it to just I don't want it to
be.
I'm with you.
You want the pulp, not the rind.
Exactly.
You just can't handle the zest. Too
Ouch.
much zest.
With the
too
flavor.
Much zest.
You guys are hot tonight.
I've talked about it before, but since we lost some of our earlier episodes, I'm not sure if it's recorded, so I'll say it again. Here in San Diego, I work with some people that refer to themselves as San Diego's finest, and one gentleman had bred something that he called Orange Tang, and it's gone now. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But it was like Orange Tang. It was very orangey, and you guys have heard me say this story before, but I definitely agree. Like sometimes things can be a little too acrid, just a little bit like up in your nose.
That's it.
Bitter.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
But I do like, suffice to say, I like gas, and like growing up, I loved those like really super sour candies and things like that. So I definitely have like I wonder if it's skewed my like taste and smell perception, But
sure. I think people have different tastes. As far like I have a buddy that will swear things smell a certain way, like, and it's like completely like I don't even get a touch of what that person's like. And then I'll say the same thing. I'll say the same thing to him, like, look, this smells just like whatever. And then he'll be like, what are you talking? So I think that for sure that people have a different, obviously we're using different instruments to do our testing too. So that makes
sense. For sure. Yeah, I think that happens. I think that's true no matter what, minimally. But like, yeah, sometimes I wonder about some descriptions, and I already know about like with beer and wine and other sorts of things. There's definitely like a marketing framing that people like to use, and it will elicit the feeling that there might be something imagined. Not that I'm saying that people in cannabis are doing this or doing this widely, but we trick ourselves a lot of the times too.
And there's the power of suggestion. So like as a grower, I'm never going to consider myself much of a breeder. I might slam plants together, you know what I mean? But I'm not doing the work that Kyle's doing. I'm not doing the work that legit breeder that Brandon is doing. And I'm just having fun at home, just slamming shit together, right?
For sure.
So fuck, I forgot my point in mid-sentence. I don't even know where I was going with that.
You're talking about the power of suggestion.
Oh, the power of suggestion. Yes, exactly. Thank you.
No problem.
So what I get a kick out of, the most fun thing for me is pheno hunting. I just love pheno hunting, right? And just finding that next thing, right? So when I grow something, I'll write down notes maybe, or I'll keep notes in my own head about how I felt about it. But when I give it to I'd like to bring it to as many people as I can to try and get feedback from them and say, what do you think? I used to I'd be like, oh, I'm excited about this because I got this off it. Let me know what you get. And a lot of times they'd say the same thing as me. When I stopped doing that, I would get different results, right? So I would just say, I think it's pretty good. You let me know what you think, and don't give them any hints. And then see what comes back. And sometimes it changes my damn mind. Like I'll be like, oh, you know what? You're right. It does smell like, you know what I mean? So yeah, when you're doing that, just don't give them any hints. Let them come up with whatever they can come up with. And if they come back and they said, well, it smells good or it tasted good, but I couldn't really place it, then offer. You'd be like, okay, well, I thought it was like this. Then they'll be, oh yeah, it is that.
Yeah, I definitely, and it definitely cuts both ways for me. In some cases, it's like, I think that people are using that power of suggestion as like a marketing tool. But in other cases, like you're describing here, even for myself, and I've described myself as kind of maybe a poor smeller or a weird smeller, or maybe just an atypical smeller, but whatever. Sometimes I won't be able to place it, and then somebody will suggest it, like you're saying, and I'll be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, it is like leather, or oh, that is definitely like chocolate or whatever. Or,
I have a relevant detail, fact, if you will. When I was in college and I was studying neuropsychology, the lab for that class, we did a super taster to non-taster test. So it's basically like a litmus test, and it's just a little piece of paper, but you put it on your tongue, and if you taste nothing, you're a non-taster. If you taste a little bit of bitterness, you're a taster, and if you taste very bitter soap, you're a super taster. I was a super taster, and what that, there's a whole category of things that makes you more predisposition to. But it was interesting to learn that, like, as I've like smoked more and more weed, I kind of was like, oh, okay, I'm tasting things that this guy right next to me is just like, he doesn't taste at all, which maybe you're just a super taster, Spartan.
Yeah. There is some genetic components there to like scent and taste.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. Here's my super tasting story, because I didn't get to talk about what I'm growing, but there's only one thing that I'm super excited about. Right? I'm excited about, but this is the one I'm most excited about, right? All right, let me clear this real quick. All right, so I've already talked about this before, but I was excited about it because it's the F1 cuvee that I gotten from Subcool that had been in my storage forever, that I popped. What was it, last year sometime? Yeah, it was last year in the fall, and I just now had gotten them into flower, and I've got, long story short, 2 phenos now in the flower room, and they're probably two weeks in maybe. Dude, I went in there for the stem rub because I'm looking for the coveted cherry cordial pheno. That's the one that Sub always talked about was his favorite, and because I asked him what was his favorite flavor of his, and then I asked him what his favorite high was, and I bought both. His favorite high was Vortex. I bought those and grew those, and then cuvee was his favorite flavor. So now I'm doing the cuvées. The cuvee, dude, I did stem rub on the one pheno, and it was just bland. I'm not getting much out of it. Whatever, it's still early. Already week 2 on it's the number 1 pheno. It smells exactly like candy cherry, not the fruit cherry, but like, a candy version cherry, like sweet cherry. And then on the back end, you just smell nothing but chocolate Tootsie Roll. It smells just like a Tootsie Roll to me. Like spot on. If I had a blindfold, I'd tell you Tootsie Roll every time. But it's like cherry Tootsie Rolls.
That's a super taster if I ever heard one. Yeah, your flavors. It just hits you right in the brain stem.
Dude, when they hit me like that, that's right there. That's keeper pheno, like one grow. Like I always say, no, always grow them twice. No, when they hit you like that strong, you just fucking hold on to that shit. I went right in, made sure my clone was rooted. I'm like, all right, I'm putting this aside. This one's getting special attention.
Oh yeah. I got a cuvee cookies. That's super fire, but it's just basically a repeat of cookies. I mean, anything you breed into cookies, just cookies takes over. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. I was just gonna say, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Man, I've never had such an experience that was as like unique as a taste as the time I smelled and even tasted a like a cola, what was it? I'm forgetting my own story now. Grape cola. It was like a grape cola flavor, and I think that was like the name. And it was just sort of shocking to me. Like I could almost smell the carbonation, like the acidic of like the carbonic acid, that kind of like scent you get of like.
Heard that there's a strain running around Detroit called Dirty Sprite that Herpogs is growing, and I've heard the same thing. It's like you get that fizzy sensation almost as you smoke it. I've heard. I haven't had the chance to smoke it yet.
Or at least it was the
carbon
scent,
content, maybe.
All of the scent was there. I don't know about any fizzing during the smoke itself, but yeah, definitely it had like it was just sort of profound. And I think the person
sorry, I didn't want to step on you.
Oh, I was just say, I think the person who grew it doesn't grow anymore. I think they were, I forget their name now, but they're somewhere in my Instagram story history or somewhere. Anyways, what were you saying?
I wonder if like the sensation might be still attached to memory, and they say that your sense of smell out of all your senses is the one that's most closely attached to memory. So I wonder just picking up that smell might trick your mind into picking up sensations that maybe you're not really experiencing too.
I think that does happen. I'm positive that happens. Kind of like a phantom limb syndrome kind of a thing.
That's why the people that like invent ketchup flavors make millions of dollars, because they have such specific and organized palates that they can just pull it apart and make everything perfect. I don't know much more about it though.
I think the guy went by the name E-Zone. E-Zone. It might have been E-Zone Farms or E-Zone 420 or E-Zone Space 420 or something. But I remember the San Diego Cannabis Farmers Market, like at this point, or maybe about half a decade or more ago, it was just a really cool experience, and I don't think he grows anymore. So, but yeah, it is definitely, the scent is a huge memory trigger.
It'll be cool to see more strains. I heard that are come out after sodas and pops, things like that, because I've heard root beer, Mean Gene's root beer. I've heard Sprite. I've heard, now you said grape. So it'd be
grape
cool.
Cola. Yeah.
Aaron said earlier it was a Mountain Dew, Baja Blast.
Baja Blast. I was going to say that's kind of a funny name too.
That Taco Bell exclusive strain, you know what I'm saying?
That's a great sound. Or that's a great, like, I could almost smell it. Somebody asked in the chat when I'm going to be on the Future Canvas project, and again, and to answer that briefly, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to arrange like an IPM mailbag or something like that. So if you want to see more of that stuff, you can see them on their Discord channel. You can talk to them there, or you can comment whenever they talk about IPM and be like, I want another Matthew episode. And maybe, but I'll have to talk with Peter and see if I can arrange that, because I would like to get more IPM questions out to people, especially if they have them here right now. I'm here for your questions too.
So congratulations to Jack, who's not on the show today, but is celebrating his wedding finally on his 1-year anniversary. He's jetting off to his honeymoon tomorrow. He's coming up my way. He's going to make a visit to my spot. So I'm super excited to see him. It was kind of the reason, like, I had to make sure. Yeah, I'm so excited. Like, finally linking up. So I'm going to, smoke some weed with him and share some COVID.
Well, hopefully not, but that is a really cool thing. That's pretty cool. I did not know that was part of the plans, the travel plans. So
shout out to Michigan, the Michigan Bros Grow Show. I went and hung out with a lot of the crew yesterday over at Sequence's house. We had a blast. We tried to meet up.
Oh, his new spot?
Yeah, his new house. Yep.
Right on.
Shit, this is the second time I've been there. First time we smoked that. Oh my God. we had to break it in style. I mean, smoke detectors were going off. It was a good time. But I want to see. I don't know if I can screen share or not. Let me try. Nope, I'm disabled. If you could allow me to screen
open
share.
that up. Yeah, let me do that.
I want to get your take on something, Matthew. So
Yes.
we had a guest on another show was showing me a product that's like a fogger, and I want to get your take on it.
Okay, I've spotlighted you.
Okay, so share screen. Oh, can you try to right click on me and give me the ability to screen share? Because it says I'm disabled. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Or if you can just make me like assistant, like
you're right. Yeah, let me see.
Like give me a higher security clearance or whatever.
Okay, so you're spotlighted now. I might have made this more difficult for myself. Let's see here. Video settings. Or can anyone coach me here?
I think the easiest way would to be make me host, and then I'll be able to do it.
Excellent. I can do that. Now you're, oh wait, here you are. You're out here. Make host. Made. There you are.
There it goes. Okay, let me try this. So we had Craft Farmer when I was on the show, when we were on the Gmail show. Is this showing? Are you seeing my screen, the Instagram page?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
All right. Nutrifogger, it's called. And it's got like just a little compartment on the side that it's got a liquid. It looks almost like an IV bag. And I think he was saying for like he can do like silica, xylitol, and sanidate. He's tried through it and they all worked. For example, he's also tried plant therapy. He told us on the show, and he said for plant therapy, he only had to put like 15 milliliters of plant therapy into this bag, and he did his whole freaking room. I'm going to show you. I don't know if you guys are seeing the video or not, but
we're definitely seeing the video. Yeah.
I want to bring it up to actually show you this thing working. Come on, go faster. Here it goes. So it seems like a safer option too, because you put it in the room, control fob for it, and you can start it up and walk out of the room, right? And you don't even have to be in the room while it's running. He says that if it like suspends the particles into the air, so it's almost like a cloud. He was saying that there's a small heating element in there, but I asked him, does it add a ton of heat into the room? And he said, no, it doesn't change the heat hardly at all in the room. And
does he say anything about electrostatic generation? Because I've seen these new sprayers that use electrostatic.
They've been around for a long time.
Well, they're new. I mean, like I've never seen them before, but now that COVID is hot, it's like everybody, it's the first thing you find on Google. Does anybody? It's not that though, right?
No.
Well, no. This is like a nanoscale. Yeah, it's like a pulse fog. I'm familiar with like a biofog or pulse fog.
He said that
system.
it stays like it's persistent. It stays like while it's not. It only runs for 30 seconds, but it stays like a cloud and it stays hanging in the air for a good amount of time before it actually settles again. And to me, that sounds like that would be absolutely amazing for pest control and for foliar application, because you're hitting like a 3D surface instead of a 2D spray. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the most difficult thing for those who've never had to do it, and I've met many people who have never had pests, which is great. But they don't realize, they underappreciate how important coverage is. And they're like, oh, Matt, I sprayed the thing that you talked about or whatever, and it didn't work out. Usually, even with good coverage, you have to spray multiple times. But like something like this allows you to achieve that objective. Pulse fog, biofog, these are also systems that exist that can do similar sorts of things in like commercial agriculture. I've definitely got experience with them. Some products you have to have one or the other. Some of them are compatible with both. So yeah, I definitely, and this sort of thing, what's great is because those systems I talked about before use like a jet engine basically to like atomize the compound, and I don't believe that's happening here. It's doing much less heat, so that's very cool.
Yeah, it says like no heat, and it's just like it basically puts a cloud into the room. He said he got the inventor was a guy from South Africa, and that's who he works with, who he partnered with, and he's basically using, craft farmer. The coolest thing about this craft farmer, this is the first time I met him, was on this show, but he's cool as shit. He's basically just a grower that everything that he likes, that he thinks is badass, he talks to that company and gets it on his webpage and just sells it to other growers, because whatever he believes in, he fucking is like facilitates that company. I think that's cool. A lot of the stuff that he had on his page we used even at work already. I've like, so it's not like he's picking out the same things that we're using professionally too. So I was pretty impressed with the guy. But so that fogger, I was like, man, like I was saying earlier, one of my least favorite jobs is to spray, And if I could just do that, I mean, I would I would do that all day long, no problem.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's a really cool thing. I'd like to check it out more.
What is really is attractive to is the amount of savings in the actual anything you're using, whether it be a pesticide, or if you're using it foliar leaf, or a like he said, they used power scythe. You can use so much less because you're using so much less water. I just wonder if it's still just as effective. He claims it is. He said he uses it to apply silica to stop the stretch, or not stop, to slow down the stretch.
Without having used it before, without knowing many details about it, I would be curious about that kind of a thing, because also and it could just be like, this is sort of a cliche way to describe new things, but like it might be disruptive technology. It might just be like somebody figured out a really cool way to do it. And I know that sometimes products are continually used in the way they are because the infrastructure has already been vertically integrated too. So the people who own the product and all the lines to make the product make money on every level. And so like they want to have those systems stay in place, even if there's a more innovative way to go about things, it's more efficient or something like that. That does happen. But I try not to assume that every single new thing is like that. And I'm very curious. And I love that you brought this example up. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Man, on the pesticide side of it, I was just thinking in my head, I was like, man, if you could suspend these particles in the air, and like a flying insect especially, how screwed is he? Now he doesn't even have the safety of the air anymore, because he has the air.
And that's the thing I love to talk about, right? Insects, they got to the skies first, right? And so for a long time they were masters, then birds happened, and that was unfortunate. So they had to get smaller, and then bats happened, and moths developed stealth, and it's very cool. Like, yeah, so if you can eliminate air, land, sea, you don't have a lot of options.
That just seems like time savings alone. I mean, water savings is huge. The app, whatever you're applying, savings is huge, and then time savings, 30 seconds and you're done. I can guarantee you it takes me 100 times more than that to do a room. Shit, I'm in there for probably an hour. So 30 there's just so many things that makes my hopes go so high. It's like I want it to work so much because that would be such a game changer, I think. I don't know if I would recommend like home growers. Like if it's in your home, it better be like a super well sealed room, especially if it's a pesticide or something that you shouldn't be breathing, is my only reservation as far as safety comes. Like in a commercial thing, you can leave the room. You know it's going to be sealed. You just shut the room door and you're good. But at home, I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also like, yeah, like, I mean, it probably goes without saying, but just to be sure, like probably it sounds like it's even kind of a lot of volume, and maybe you could adjust it. But sounds like it's even kind of a lot of volume for a small tent, so like, but at that point,
the way to adjust it is time. So what he was saying is like if you're doing a small homesteading, he's like literally 3 seconds is all you need.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool.
It's just that it's not that the fog is getting pushed out at a higher rate. It's just how long does it take the fog to fill the space? So it's just a time thing. So 3 seconds and you got your space filled. You don't need to keep pumping smoke.
In a similar way, I know that some, like I think Sanidate or Oxidate is like this, where if you turn the you can spray the substance like a liquid, like as a liquid, or you can make it into a foam, right? And so the foam, just like the fog, is like it increases the coverage tremendously, right? It changes the nature, right, to 3D situation, like you were kind of saying.
Yeah, we have a fogger or a foamer at work too, but
yeah, right.
It's the same thing as a sprayer. I still got to do all the PPE, so I still got to do this giant heavy mask. I still got to get gloved up and a whole nother suit on top of that,
and spend the time actually applying it. Yeah,
this thing I put in the room and walk the hell out. Oh, it just sounds so good. All right, we can find another horse to beat, but that just sounded good to me, man. I was excited about it. We did have another question in chat from Chad Westport. Does anyone use the AC Affinity USB computer fans for fans inside a small 2x2 or 3x3 tent? I'm considering this as an option. I think I saw Green Jeans Garden do a episode one time where he used fans, and I believe it was from AC Affinity, that were like a computer style. They're a little bit bigger than a computer fan, but the same style. Those square, real super quiet fans. I couldn't tell you what episode, but if you do it, you can maybe find information there. But I think it's doable. I would look at the specs of the fan and see what it's rated to, how much air it's supposed to move out. You know what I mean? What are the CFUs of the fan, and match it to your space. And yeah, I think it's totally doable. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I imagine it's kind of like that, where it's just like a physics question. How much air do you want to move, and how big is your space, and that's it, right?
CFM, baby. It's all about CFM. Calculate your cubic feet, and then you can multiply by 1.3 if you have a heavy duty filter like a wet wall or like a HEPA filter. And yep, cubic feet per minute. So just make sure that matches up.
If you look into other industries, for example, like photography, people that develop their own films, they have to move air out of those rooms. I'm sure they've got fans that are specifically designed so that light doesn't come in, but they can still blow air out. Look in different industries, and maybe you're going to save some money and get a better quality item too, because you don't have to pay the cannabis tax.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I like depping a vent. So you have like a wall with a vent on like the top area, and then on the outside of the wall you have a vent on the bottom. And so as long as you have two 90-degree turns between the louvers inside the wall acts as your ducting, and then you put a pull fan on the other side of that wall, and so you're able to dep with any kind of fan, as long as you're able to build a wall with.
Oh, and that pull fan is just to compensate for all those turns. That's going to bring that efficiency of that back up. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I mean, your efficiency isn't going to go down as long as your louvers allow for cubic feet that you're trying to pull. So the louvers are just vents in the wall that darken. It's exactly. It's instead of dropping like a 6-inch soft ventilation and curving it around, you can have this inside of your wall and dep your fan using an exhaust room, kind of like outside the room.
Nice. Eliminate all that stupid fucking ducting.
Exactly. Yep.
Katie Armstrong had a question before, and Cheddar Bob, you said they get a trips question. If you can resubmit it in chat, I will get to it. But Katie asks, are yellow sticky traps effective against fungus gnats? Now, there's a little bit to unpack in that question, because I do get this a lot. As like a curative control, not at all. Almost never. It depends. I mean, this is the Cheap Home Grow podcast, so if the volume is very slight, I think that the yellow sticky cards are great for like killing some of those ingressing populations. But usually it's not gonna kill the whole population. It's yellow sticky cards are almost always used for for sampling. And there are like rolls of yellow, like glue adhesive tape that you can get, kind of expensive, but people use those in industrial settings to mass trap large flying insects that are attracted to that bright yellow color. So in my opinion, probably not going to be helpful in that case. The thing that you should be doing is trying to eliminate ways for the fungus gnats to get into your grow space if you can, and also kind of eliminate, like the same way you would for mosquitoes. It's also mosquito season right now, and especially if you live in California, please, overturn your pots and like things that can hold water, because that standing water becomes a place for mosquitoes, but also fungus gnats and midges and other sorts of things that can cause a problem for your plants or for yourself. So it's all biosecurity at the end of the day.
But I also want to stress the fact that those sticky traps are the reason there's a grid on them is to make it easy for you to make accounts. You can walk in there every day and be like, okay, I've got, 1 per square, or I got, 14, or I got 10 today. So that when you come in the next time, you're like, wait a minute, I've got 30. Holy shit. The population's increasing. We better do something instead of just do nothing. So it's kind of like, it helps you, like, it's an indicator to show you what's going on, where our eyes aren't good enough to just walk into a room and evaluate how many bugs are flying around, because you're not going to see any probably. But
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, those traps are there to be like a visual, like, snapshot
it's like
of what's going on.
Yeah, it's like an abstraction, and you can, the grid really helps that. You can just look at a grid or a couple of grids and just make an average.
It's an
Matthew, I see them
measurement.
I see them in blue as well. Which do fungus gnats like, the blue or the yellow, and what are the different colors?
The blue, it's a great question. So the blues, you would maybe think that you would use green, right? You'd think like maybe green, but I like the yellows primarily. The blues are good for, I think they're often used for thrips actually, but I do find that it's not as common. And sometimes you even see those sticky cards doped with some kind of like attractant, maybe a pheromone, maybe like, I have heard people talk about putting like almond extract on the sticky cards to attract thrips or certain species of thrips. So that's an interesting thing to consider. And I'm all about using every like sense that you can exploit of the insect to like disrupt it, repel it, attract it in a way that will be beneficial to you. All those sorts of things. If you can mess with their physiology in all those ways, then you can have a much better outcome, I think. And I like the yellow ones. And the reason why they are the color that they are is because a lot of insects that are herbivorous will hone in, either they're looking for floral resources, and yellow, what we call like UV, like the yellow is attractive because of its yellow color, because it can also be a color of a flower, but it can also be the color of like unhealthy leaves that are chlorotic. So you kind of like have both of those advantages there. And also some of those yellows are like really close to like the UV, or how do I say this? They like reflect it, or they do something to it, and so you kind of get both advantages. I'm not really describing that very well though, but like color.
I think I remember on the blue ones specifically, they're marketed for thrips. I don't know what.
Pretty sure.
But the yellow ones is what I see most everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I got Cheddar Bob's question.
Yes.
I got cucumerus and pirate bugs for a few thrips I've seen. Anything else you'd recommend? I have Hypoaspis miles in the soil. That's pretty great. That's a pretty comprehensive group. So you got the cucumerus that goes after thrips and a bunch of other things. You got pirate bugs that go after thrips and also are generalists. And then you have a Hypoaspis in the soil. When the thrips pupate, they sometimes fall into the soil, and that's another vulnerability that you can exploit. So to add, I would use like Bavaria bassiana or something like that. If you can drench apply that, if you can get access to it, that can be really great. And I have good efficacy against it as a drench for thrips and also for fungus gnat larvae.
I can second that. I've used, I got some from Brandon, and I went full total war because I took in a plant that was like fungus gnat, like amusement park or something. So I was like, oh, this is going to go down quick. So I just took the straight spores and fucking put a good layer across the top of that pot. And literally within, I don't know, a week, I didn't see a fungus gnat flying, man. So I did had sticky traps and stuff too to catch the flyers, but already. But that I don't use it as an IPM. I just use it as a nuclear bomb. So I don't use it like in my soil all the time because of the nature. I've heard that it's like you have to like re-inoculate a lot to get the benefit. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna, if I see a problem, that's my nuke. I just smash the soil with a bunch of BB spores.
Yeah, half measures are fine, but I do feel like that is kind of that's like an aspect of the biosecurity mindset or the IPM mindset that I think is sometimes not focused on enough. And that's like that violence of action. It's that like intensity. Like you got to be tenacious. You can't just apply one thing or two things. Well, it depends on what you apply, I suppose. But things that you probably should be applying in cannabis, you got to apply usually multiple times. You got to get in there, maybe cut away some of the foliage that's really damaged or that has lots of the pests on there. Get up in there. People who grow at their home have so many advantages that they don't have commercially. And we've spoken to this in the past, Spartan, right? That like at the end of the day, you go home, right? And so like you kind of can't do certain things that you could at your house.
And vice versa, though. There's some things you can do
that's true
that you can't do at the house. Here's a really great tip that I picked up from Steven Reisner from Potent Ponics. And I thought this was great. And anybody can do this. And this is going to step up your game. And it's going to probably save Matthew a lot of headaches. Is that if you have a questionable bug and you want to get a good picture of it, what Steven does is when he catches them, he says he just throws them in the damn freezer and then comes back to them in an hour, 2 hours, whatever. They're dead once you freeze them. Then they don't move either, and you can get them under they stay still, and you can take really great pictures with with your macro lenses and get really good pictures of all your pests. I thought that was such a great idea. Grab an infected leaf, throw that whole fucking thing in a bag, and throw it in the freezer. Fuck it. You know what I mean? How easy is that? Not only are you taking the pest out of the space, but now you're going to be able to get a good ID on it and know what you're dealing with.
I definitely agree with that, and definitely helps with the videos. I've gotten so much experience, looking at people's various photos and videos, even like in grainy footage. It's gotten to the point where I feel like I could be one of those like UFO operators or like people who like stand out on the deck being like, "What is that? Like, we have no idea. Let's really analyze it, like, enhance, CSI style." But yeah, if you can put it in the fridge or the freezer. Insect bodies are pretty resilient. You will eventually kill it if you leave it in too long, but they can come back. Like I've heard of many stories of people who go to pin their arthropods, and they put them in the fridge for not long enough, and like 12 hours later, their bodies are wriggling on these pins, the exact opposite they wanted to happen, and they have to go through that process again, and because you have to relax the body and all this other sort of taxidermy stuff.
But that's what's going to happen with Walt Disney.
They're not going to last that long in the freezer, though. You could probably, I would imagine most bugs are going to die in the freezer. Hopefully.
Oh, definitely. It's just a time thing. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
but like in the fridge, they can look dead. Pretty much. Like some people have an eye for it, like if their body is so kind of flexible, but like they won't be active, and so people will mistake them for dead.
Yeah, I've seen magicians be like, "Look, this fly is dead," and he's just like puts his hand over it, warms it up. All of a sudden, it comes to life. He like, wiggles his fingers at it, and it comes back to life because it was just frozen. It wasn't dead.
Okay, Matthew, there, Chef in chat, Chef, man, shout out to you, Chef. Has said that there's some issues with fungus gnats. So, my general tips on fungus gnats, and he's saying organic too, organic options. Okay, generally speaking, so fungus gnats show up, you got an imbalance somewhere. So, what do fungus gnats eat? Fungus gnats are looking for decaying organic material. So that means you have a layer of material that these fungus gnats are going after, and it's got to be wet. So I'm not saying it's over watering, but you're going to have to address one of those two situations, either the moisture level or the organic material. A lot of people will do, to address the organic material, they'll do like a dry material, like rice hulls is a common one, or sand over the top to try to make a physical barrier. But I think it's better just to get your watering to a level to where your moisture is good enough for your plant, but you're not so moist to where you're attracting fungus gnats. And then you start building, like, who was that, Matthew, that had that last question about the fungus gnat? I can't remember, but they said they had the hypostas. What are they called? They're not called
hypoaspis miles. Yeah,
they're called something else now.
It's a long, confusing taxonomic kerfluffle, but there's Stratiolaelaps,
there you go,
Hymatis, and there's Hypoaspis miles, and they're both in the family Laelapidae and the tribe Hypoaspididae,
so they're two different things then, or I thought
it's sort of like, it's kind of, there's probably, it's the truth. It's probably a cryptic species complex. I bet you that's the reality of it. Just like that was recently found out with green lacewings. Recently is found that the Chrysoprula carnea that are being sold are actually a species complex, and various biocontrol companies have like different cultures, and they were able to tell the difference because they make different mating calls.
I knew it.
I know you knew it. I know, and I want to confirm it for you. And now we know. So, it just goes to show that we don't always know what we're dealing with, even with the things bigger than microbes.
Right. So yeah, just keep building up your army against the fungus gnats. And so the next thing would be, that's a good thing. We'll call them hypostasis miles for now.
Hey, Matthew.
Nematodes was the one that I wanted to say that we haven't mentioned. That's another good one you can throw in there. They're fairly cheap. SF variety. I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Stein or Nema felchiae. But yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention those too. Definitely a big SF nematode fan for fungus gnats.
You know how they sell those blue light fan things that'll catch mosquitoes and trap them in?
Like will UV
that be
light.
Effective? Yeah, will that be effective with fungus gnats, or are those mostly mosquito grabbers?
I don't have a lot of experience using like some of the more like kind of high-end versions of those.
Right, some cheesy, yeah.
Well, I don't. I try not to be too. The problem is that like a lot of times people don't make stuff for bug people, so you got to kind of like adapt and use things and be creative. And UV traps can kind of be a boon and a bane. They can be a boon because UV is often attractive to a lot of different organisms, insects, both beneficial and detrimental. So you can kind of kill both, which is not great. But also, at the same time, you might not want to attract them to your area. You know what I mean? Just kind of generally. So it's like, same with the pheromone traps in some ways, but the pheromone traps aren't so bad because you're usually attracting males that don't lay eggs, and that's how you disrupt the mating situation of your general area. So, but it's a good question.
Good.
Can you take those insects out of I was thinking just putting one of those fucking things out in my backyard just to harvest insects and then throw them to my worm bin almost as like a frass input or a chitin input or something. You think that'd be beneficial?
I mean, I think that if you were able to if you were able to like attract them and like harvest them in a way, like
Well, you
maybe
see those
not from
fly
a
traps where they put them for usually around horse farms and stuff.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they'll catch like pounds.
Oh
of
yeah, but the
flies.
glue, I'd be curious about if you had like a glue, maybe that was like a natural glue, and then like you put
Well,
it
these
on like a
aren't. There's
paper that's
it's a container. You just opens it up, and there's tons of carcasses
yeah.
inside.
I thought you were talking. Sorry, I keep thinking people are talking about like fly paper and that
Oh
kind of
no,
stuff.
yeah, no, not that. That would be
Yeah.
impossible to get them off. Yeah.
Right, but yes, no, I think that's an interesting way to. I mean, that could be a cool way to like. I still think there's a way to like.
I'm just
make
thinking.
use of.
Do you think there's a positive use that I could use insect carcasses like?
Yeah, well, people are talking about the chitin and the sort of how chitin can be an elicitor for the immune system, and insect
There wouldn't be
bodies
like
have.
an NPK to it at all. You think? Well, maybe a mosquito might have some iron from blood. Blood in it.
Yeah, probably quite a bit proportionally. And like some, well, like and like some. I guess like when I think about it, like there's a lot of insects, even like moths and things and butterflies that are toxic, right? Like monarch butterflies and anything in the sort of
Oh, that's a good point.
zygody. Yeah, so I guess there are probably some edge case situations that might not be super applicable. But yeah, I like thinking in that way. I like the idea of using like ultraviolet traps or some way to exploit the like visual vulnerabilities of insects, because although they have pretty cool eyes that do some stuff really well, it does other stuff really poorly. And so like like the color thing, like I know some people talk about how they've heard of research where they use like electromagnetism to figure out things and such, but the vast majority of research that I'm familiar with is centered around a combination of aroma, basically, or some sort of scent perception, taste perception when they get to the plant. But before that ever happens, visual cues. And so all of those three things kind of come together to tell the insect that your plant is suitable to eat. And so if you can break that down at any of those levels, and preferably all three of those levels, then that's really good for you. So
that's kind of like the plants trying to do that with their terpenes.
Exactly. And when they are damaged, they'll release other volatiles that tell the other things, hey, are you hungry? Want to work for it? Come help me. And then maybe other insects, have developed like a recognition of those and say, oh no, that plant's under attack. Time to attack it. Like, so you kind of can't win. I feel like it's turtles all the way down, so to speak.
I just want bugs to stay away from my fucking plants. That's all I want, Matthew.
I know, right? That's why I was working with the Saigo people, and that's why we're doing mesh screen, because we put some pheromone traps out. We caught the first budworm after having them out for 2 weeks of the season. So we're waiting to see what the data points are going to be. But that's why we're gonna enclose all of the plants in mesh screen, and we're going to see how that goes. Now, one of the downsides to that, one of the things to consider rather, is that the physics of airflow make it so that, well, also light, because this is going to like block like 20 to 30% of the light that hits the plants too, which is significant. But also
outside, you'll be fine. That's just like
it's going to be no problem. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think it'll be a problem. Also, it's very dry up there, and they have a high elevation, so like it's like average 20 to 30 degrees or 30% humidity relative. So I don't think that'll be a huge problem. They're also going to introduce mulch too, so that might increase the insulation, I'm imagining, but I don't think it's going to spike the humidity too egregiously. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that actually?
I think it's going to be great for the root zone. I think I would suggest it. I would caution the mulch not to be too woody.
I would agree with that.
Like no wood chips, things like that. Because that'll if it gets buried in the dirt, which eventually it's going to, that's just going to be like take a bunch of nitrogen for that fungi to break that wood down, and you're going to be chasing nitrogen with your plants that are already nitrogen. They eat a lot of nitrogen already. But I know I like the idea. I would recommend outdoor. Anytime you can do a mulch layer, it just tremendously reduces the amount of water you have to use, which is the biggest labor. The biggest labor is usually the water.
And it's very dry out here. How do you like to insulate with mulch?
So what I like to do is I did in-ground planting with fabric pots, but I would do partial plant. So it would be half the height of the, you could, whatever size you want to go with, the bigger the better usually, up to a point. But whatever half the height of the pot was, I would dig that hole in the native ground, put the pot in there, start with my own mixed soil, and then bury that pot halfway. So I get the benefit of a raised bed. So if I get a torrential downpour, I don't get wet roots or wet feet, so to speak. My feeder roots that sit on the top will be dried out. They can drain through the sides too. And then the pot being buried in the ground gives you the benefit of helps your root zone be protected from all the damn subterranean critters that like to fuck with your roots, like moles, for example, or groundhogs. Or I even
they're going to be they're putting in a mesh.
Like they buried the eggs that I had, unbeknownst to me, had buried eggs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I had baby little turtles come out. Yeah.
They're gonna put in a mesh for that too, like an anti-vole grating.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
But then and then if you're using pots, you control how much you fill in, and then you could use, depending on, it's going to take their knowledge if they've grown there before, but and to know how much to mulch in. And what I'm saying is that I use a thicker mulch layer if I think it's going to be a dry year. If I think it's going to be a more wet year, I don't want to put a lot of mulch layer because it's going to be a wet year and it's just going to act like a sponge, and I don't want to hold water, especially near the middle. So even if I know it's going to be a real wet year, it's calling for a lot of, even if it's a week that I'm going to get a lot of rain in a week, I'll dig the mulch layer away from the stem. So it's a very thin mulch layer at the actual close to the stem, but then it's thick, as you come out. Just because I'm worried about stem rot is another kind of outdoor thing you have to worry about. Unless you can keep the bottoms real cleaned up and you have good airflow, you're okay. And it sounds like with your lower humidity, it shouldn't be an issue for you.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, I usually am higher. I'm usually dealing with higher humidity. It's low humidity all summer long, and then towards the end of harvest, when you don't need it, is when we get the high moisture, and then it's all high moisture for us towards the end of towards harvest time.
Yeah, that can be the case here too. Like when it gets a little bit colder in autumn and winter in Southern California, even and especially so where it's actually a little wetter. Like the springtime, like right now, we'll get some precipitation some places. It'll just come out of nowhere. And in this place in Aguanga, the climate's such that sometimes water will just kind of pool out of the air, and the cloud formation kind of happens rapidly and dissipates rapidly. But it's kind of interesting. But yeah, during harvest time, like October, November, December, I feel like February, living in Southern California as long as I have, I feel like Februaries are kind of like our wettest. It can feel like our wettest month sometimes. I remember in high school, the area around my school actually flooded.
Oh my God! In February.
In February, and in San Diego, where it's really, really dry and hot, sunny San Diego, right? So a lot of people were surprised.
Do you know if they grow from seed or clone?
They grow from seed, actually.
Perfect. That was going to be another thing I was saying. If they can, I would grow from seed. You're going to get, I don't want to say it's going to water itself, but that taproot is really helpful because it kind of grow straight down instead of trying to go laterally a lot. And it'll find any subterranean, if there is any. I don't know. Doesn't sound like you might have very many subterranean water sources there, but if there is one, it'll find it.
Yeah, there's actually there's a plant on the site. There's a native plant, and we're using a lot of native flora and fauna as much as we can to actually be banker crops and things like that, banker plants. So I'm excited about that. One of them, for a long time, it was thought that it used a like a toxin, like a phytotoxin to inhibit other plants to grow around it. But apparently it's just really well adapted to this desert, and it just sucks the moisture out of the out of all of the soil around. And so it outcompetes the other plants that don't establish first. And
wow.
So there's some really cool desert plants that I'm going to be interacting with. So I'm excited about that. We got a ton of hoverflies. Like in each trap, when we had like 5 out there, we probably had 50 at least minimum.
Are you
which
not
kind of
concerned about that?
Hmm?
Aren't you a little concerned about that?
Well, the
pretty good vectors, aren't they?
Well, hoverflies are the larvae often feed on aphids, so I'm kind of hoping for that outcome. But there are other native species the larvae feed on decomposing wood. If you've ever seen like what are called like rat tail maggots, I think that's what they're called. Those are actually a hoverfly group that feeds on like algae and bacteria and that kind of stuff. They have like this little tube that lets them like breathe the air as they like swim in the muck.
What?
Hey Matt, I have a question. Is it possible that BT could negatively impact hoverfly larvae, being that they're like in that caterpillar? What did I say?
No. Well, because mosquitoes are flies too, right? Is your point?
Specifically they're like in a caterpillar form, like a worm.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of yes.
So question being, yeah. Is BT negatively impacting potentially hoverfly larvae?
That's a good question. So like Bacillus thuringiensis, but just like by itself, no special isolate. Like so, right. Like there's the ones that are for the caterpillars. I would say it's possible that some BT could have a negative effect on hoverfly larvae, but I would think it'd be more likely on the species that live in the sort of decaying organic matter or like wood and that kind of stuff. I think they'd be more susceptible, not because of like any physiological reason, more so just from like proximity and the likelihood that they would have like more exposure from because of their lifestyle. I wanted to sound very fancy and remember the specific name we have for like larviform. Like there's a specific kind of larvae that entomologists use. It's basically a word that means like caterpillar-like. And I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but like it's funny.
I wish I would have known that one. Yeah.
The pupa?
No. It's like a Latin word, and it basically means that like this, like because it's got like things that have like a long body, a head capsule, and like some like proto legs and that kind of a thing. So like beetles have
caterpillian.
Caterpillars have it. Some fly larvae have it. Not quite like that, but beetles have it. I think mostly just those two. Wasps and some larvae of those groups do have that. But anyways, rant over.
I gotta jump out of here, guys. I gotta get going. But it was a great episode. This went fast, man. We just sitting here shooting the shit and went fast. Thanks to chat for all the good questions this time. I love episodes like that where chat kind of drives the episode. I like it. So much love to everybody. Growers love, and we'll see y'all next week, man.
Later, Spartan.
Peace out, Spartan.
Later, Spartan. I definitely have to agree.
Later, man.
I enjoy these sort of like just sort of diatribes where we talk and shoot it up. So should we start the outro, or how are we feeling? Do we have any more questions?
I'm down, but my outro is so short. And that's just the four of us. We're all, I don't know, Tao, what do you got going on, man? I want to hear your voice just more. If
Noah,
nothing else.
I want to hear more from you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I was saying, I'm excited. I got chocolate. So what happened was I ordered chocolate in the mail, and I thought they were going to be regular seeds, but they were fem seeds. So Full Duplex was kind enough to hook me up with some sex reversal spray that I want to attempt to use on that strain in particular. But then I also acquired some OG chocolate Thai, and I'm going to go down and try and find me some chocolate tasting weed is what I'm planning on. I hope, knock on wood.
That sounds really delightful.
Yeah.
Shout out to Full Duplex, man. That guy is totally legit. He's actually one of my. We talk a lot, and he's helped me out, and that's a really cool dude. And if anybody's looking for any autoflowers, that's the guy you want to hit up right there.
No doubt.
You heard it from Noah. So Noah, what are some of the things you're working on currently?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to I'm building some soil for some autoflowers outdoors. I recently just got reached out to by one of the reps of the soil that Full Duplex is running Bio 365, and I'm gonna try some of that. I'm gonna try some autoflowers, and right now I'm just totally recovering from this car wreck. I don't know if I've posted any pictures in our chat, or if not, I will. And
you did post some of the after effect with the car. It was quite egregious.
Yeah, so I've been kind of out of it a little bit, but there's not very many people here, but I mean, I'll run it by. I was in the chat a whole bunch. That's why I wasn't as active as normal. But one of the subjects that got brought up was people were talking about. To me, I thought pretty high prices for specialized cuts, and I'm curious, what's the most anybody here has paid for a cut?
That's a good question. I like that.
I paid $100 for a cut for Sunday Driver. But I mean, Tiki Madman's got cuts on Neptune's website for $500 a pop, and you can order them from anywhere in the country.
My buddy, the Platinum OG cut that I have, my buddy got that like when, cookies have been around. So I mean, probably 7 years ago. Cookies had already hit the scene, obviously, because it's got cookies in it, but it was real fresh, right? And then he got that, and I know he paid $500 for it and signed a contract with the guy saying that he wasn't going to give any cuts out for like a year or something. And then afterwards, I got one, and I love it dearly. But I mean, I remember the time when he told me 500, I was like, oh my God. But I mean, it was at the time, however long ago it was, and after. I know it was at least 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, but it was some of the best weed terpiest stuff that I had ever had. But
what was it? Platinum?
I know that, Platinum Girl Scout Cookie Cross with OG Kush.
Anything with platinum in it seems to have a really high markup, dude. There was a guy selling a Platinum Cross for $2,500. It's the only thing he grew, and it's $2,500. I don't know who buys that shit, but yeah, crazy prices.
Are we talking 2,500 for the flower? Or are we talking 2,500 for one cut?
Dude, for the cut and contract obligated, like you're talking about.
Oh my God.
Contract obligation on top of it. That's pretty.
Yep.
Wow. I know that that's one of the guys that was running that same circle. I also heard a rumor that when gelato first hit the scene, that somebody paid a ridiculous amount for it. Somebody that I know, I can't remember what the number was, but I know that I've paid 60. I think I maybe paid 71. So I'm trying to think about what I know that and hey, if you're gonna get a lot out of it, I mean, if it washes real good or presses real good, and that's what you're really into, or it's got a real terpy, but man, 2,500. I'm out.
I agree. And I was too, and I laughed in his face, but honestly, 1 pound and it's paid off. I mean, I've paid more for other grow equipment and it pays itself off in the same regard, ROI. And I don't know, maybe it's there, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It'd have to be something
I think the most I've ever spent was $20. Like
good
some
for you.
dispensary.
Like I
Honestly.
was saying, I never bought a cutting ever in my entire existence.
There you go.
Lucky guys.
So yeah, if there was something I wanted, I would like either get the parents and try and find my own, or I would buy knockoff seeds.
I know that that there's a big clone drop for 420 in my local area of and I know the place and they're legit, and it's 60 a cut, and it's the apple fritter cut, and I'm gonna go get one. So
I know
really
some
good
of them
things
cuts.
about that.
Oaksterdam University Nursery used to sell cuts, and there's some that if you still had some of those, that some of them were pretty damn good.
Sure.
At least the smoke was. I never grew any of them out, but I tried some smoke off of a couple of them, and it was really good shit.
There's, that's another, of course, I'm getting into some deeper stuff now that there's only a few guys here, but I got some good guys. To me, that's kind of a controversial subject. I mean, I think if you took the absolute best cut and gave it to just a guy who really didn't know what he was doing, I mean, he might be able to grow decently. Whereas if you gave someone like, just even like a, Gorilla Glue 4, let's just say a cut that, yields pretty good, and, a good grower like Brandon or Aaron or any Spartan or any of you guys, you're going to be able to grow fire with it. So, I mean, obviously, you know what I mean? If you had that $2,500 platinum cut, maybe it would be like, 3, 4, 5% better. But I mean, and if you're looking for that particular taste, or like I said, it's something that maybe does, a good hash, for what people want to do. But
nah, dude, to me, it seemed like same kind of mentality of like, I'm going to buy this new car.
Right.
Like to show off. Like it's not, I got this on my, on my resume now. It's mine. It's like, okay, I got buddies that'll outbreed that strain in F3, in less than a year. But nonetheless, this stuff exists, and if you can see an ROI on it and you have the money for it, it could be a good investment. But then again, don't pay more than something's worth. Right now,
let me
clones
ask
are
you
going
guys
for
this.
$10 a pop.
If someone had a clone and the end product was the real skunk, do you think there would be a market for it?
Yeah,
there would be. There definitely would be. And that's funny that you say that.
I know that because some people sell skunk that's not skunk, if only for the fact that there can only be one skunk, I guess. True, whatever that means, right? And I don't know the extent of that statement, to be quite honest. But obviously,
I'm not even saying it doesn't even have to be skunk number one or anything. But if the cut ends up smelling totally
if
like
it's
a
skunky,
skunk,
you mean?
yeah,
Definitely.
Skunk smell, people, right?
To be fair, that $500 platinum cut that I got, man, I'm telling you right now, that thing, dude, it is some of the smellingest stuff consistently. And I've ran through a lot of gear, man, and
it's above the rest, right?
Very few even come close. With that.
So then,
that smell.
So it's
that's
worth
a good point,
then.
dude. Yeah. See, exactly. See, like most cuts, 99% of cuts out there, $10, $15. That's what they're fucking worth. But if you get a cut that's 3 or 4% better than everything else, dude, that's worth thousands.
That's why I actually brought it up. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I'm not. I just know that that's a tough deal to pony up. But I see where you're coming from. I really do. I mean, the guy that I said that paid the $500 for it, I mean, we're talking about somebody that built his way up. I'll tell you that much. You know what I'm saying? Like, it definitely helped him, in a process that he was doing. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. What do you guys think about final sign-offs now?
Yeah, I think so. I was just going to add that, I do feel that, that's the thing about value. Everyone has a different way to value things, but technically for cannabis, I think the ROI for a lot of things could be large. You know what I mean?
Sure,
cannabis.
super justifiable.
It's kind of easy to justify it from that perspective for a lot of things. But I do feel and also if it goes for this price and then it becomes democratized and then many people have it, then the value in that way, in that very Keynesian, a very academic economics 101 way, like of course the value kind of goes down that way, but everyone's different, and there's more to buying and selling things than that, certainly. So outro, Spartan. Oh, yeah, you're going to a Michigan Bros show, right?
Yes, he has.
Oh, he already has. Duh. Right. Aaron.
Sure. Yep. I'm ATG Acres. That stands for Aaron the Grower. I am on Instagram, YouTube, and also atgacres.com if you want to find out what's going on with me. Really fun show. I regret not being able to be here every week, but I'm so grateful when I can, and especially when it's a small panel and we get to converse like we have tonight. So thank you guys, and thanks for having me.
Just let me know when the boar are giving you trouble.
Oh yeah, no, get your ammunition ready.
We'll see. We'll see if I'm allowed to do that. Tao, sign off.
All right, Matthew, thanks for taking the controls, and it was great to be here. Noah the Grower, ATG Acres, Spartan, and everyone. And it was good to see everyone in chat. I'm the American One on YouTube. I keep saying it every time, but I will put more content on YouTube eventually. And the American One _ Keens on the IG, which I have more stuff on there. And yeah, it was really good. Good chat tonight. Thanks.
I'd love to see more of that stuff, especially if you can get that chocolate cannabis to be very aromatic. I'm curious.
That would be, yes.
Definitely report back on that. We'll see you later. And Noah the Grower.
Yeah, I'm Noah the Grower on Instagram with 2 E's. I'm also a Cowboy Blazer fan on Twitter. If you have anything on Twitter you want to come check out, you can check it out. I've been thinking about doing Facebook, but I just haven't been able to bring myself to do it. I dig Instagram. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I've met so many cool people there. You know, everyone on this panel. I got to shout out Shane, man. I was talking to one of my buddies the other day. I just happened to meet him in a Discord room and, you know, post a couple pictures of some of my buds, and he brought me here, and I'm so thankful to be with all you guys. I mean, everyone down the list, everyone that's in that Instagram chat. I wouldn't leave the Instagram chat if somebody gave me $1,000. It's just so cool to have everybody there, the camaraderie, and I just am honored to be a part of it. So yeah, if you have any questions for me, you can check out my stuff, and glad to be here as always.
You and me both. I definitely feel that as well. So I really appreciate having these conversations, echoing what Aaron, Tao, and you, Noah, have been saying as well, Spartan. Like, I love having these sort of closer, tight-knit question answering rapid fire chat. So I'm hoping that this was a good host experience for everyone, and signing out. Cheap Home Grow Podcast 111.
Great job, Matt.
Thank you.
Growers love.
Grower love.
Keep growing.